And are you considering 7D since Vesalainen stayed on late?
Yeah, so Tucker's going to play tonight, and we'll go 7 and 11. We don't have any back-to-backs here in the near future, and want to get Tucker an opportunity to play and still be safe with our back end.
And we'll go next to Ted Wyman from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Ted.
Paul, with that in mind and how you ran things in Calgary, is the versatility of this group of forwards really shining through for you right now, where you can move guys around up and down the lineup?
We've got enough of a history between players now that they're used to different line combinations. We can still stay in a 4-line rotation, but there's enough guys and we've got an awful lot of centermen. So we got a lot of guys that can drop down and take that center spot. Matty Pro can slide into the center spot, and we can use different wingers. So because it's it's a little bit older group. Pierre-Luc's our youngest forward in the lineup tonight. So they can mix and match, and we're still looking for that. You know what? We're not looking for final chemistry. We're looking for different places to go with the lineup, where you can still, be strong and generate and defend with different looks. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'll go next to Stephen Wino from the Associated Press. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Paul. The Lightning last year won the Stanley Cup with 11-7, and it's different coaches have different perspectives on what they like about it. What do you like about 11-7, and I guess what challenges does it present when you have to double shift a forward?
So if you feel that you're top heavy enough on your 9, but you're in an NHL schedule, which means you have to run 4 lines, the 11-7 allows you to get a little bit more ice time to players that are used to playing more minutes. It can be really effective if you're not in a high power play. The challenge are you get into a power play penalty kill game. That's when it starts, especially almost everybody's using 4 forwards then. So you've got 8 guys that will go off your bench, and you've got to use the last 3 then with 11 for that next line out. So how your team is structured matters. We've stayed away from it here. A big chunk of it was because of the age of our forwards. We were so young that we didn't want to be moving people around all the time. And the other would be our schedule, in that we have a tendency to get off the airplane at 2:00 in the morning. And I never really like going into games with 11 forwards and you might be down to 10. So the sheer number of games that we play in March says we're going to have a real difficult schedule. But just the fact that we don't have anybody in our time zone to play, that's a challenge for us. But we aren't traveling quite as much. So we're a better rested team at this point in the season. So that's the upside to it.
And we'll go next to Josh Clipperton from the Canadian Press. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, Paul, there was a lot made last week about some of the new enhanced protocols from a player's perspective, but I'm wondering from a coach's perspective how it maybe has changed a little bit, with the virtual meetings, especially, and if you have to spread out in the locker room. Because I had one coach say that it's almost like online learning. Someone's Wi-Fi always cuts out. I'm just wondering if it's even more of a challenge to get your message across now.
We've been doing smaller group meetings more this year than in the past, and it's kind of become who we are. So we don't do a power play meeting anymore with the entire power play group. You'd use 5 or 6 guys, and we've kind of, one of our solutions is to take a very large area and spread people out so it's beyond social distancing. It's you got different guys in different quadrants. The other things like the changes to the locker room, those plans are still in progress, right? We're still submitting those to the league, getting them approved. I think really, you know what? Because this isn't the first time, and we all went through that bubble experience, the unusual now is normal, and the players wouldn't even notice it that much. You just run your meetings differently. They're wearing their masks all the time. It's now become a habit for us, and they don't mind doing it.
We'll go next to Jason Bell from the Free Press. Go ahead, Jay.
Hey, Paul, there's a lot of guys on the Senators team that, your club isn't necessarily totally familiar with because you don't play them a lot over the last few years. But a guy that you played a lot and had a lot of battles with was Austin Watson, specifically in 2018, that great run for you guys and for them. And certainly we don't have to belabor the point that he's had some off ice, things that have been public that you and I would probably be a lot more private. So, what's the respect that you have for him as a player, and how he's sort of come through that and is a veteran contributor for Ottawa?
Yeah, you know what? He's an impact player, and I guess literally as well, right? He's a big hit finisher. But when he's in the game, credit to his resiliency, and I won't comment on his private life because I have no insight or no right to, but he's learned how to come out and play the exact same game every night. And it's an abrasive game, and it's physical, and it takes a real physical toll, I think even mental toll, to be able to wind yourself up like that and play as hard as that man does nightly. He falls into that category. We always say this guy's a great pro. Any guy that you can define his game before he goes on the ice, and you can say, this is what this player does. And then you see that game very, very consistently. Those are the great pros of the game. So he's a bit of a throwback. Certainly he doesn't pass up on a hit. He's going to have lots to say in between whistles, but he backs it up, and he's not inconsistent with it. You know what you're getting every night. Makes him hard to play against.
We'll go next to Sarah Orlesky from TSN. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, you've spoken about wanting your forwards to take shorter shifts and be more efficient maybe with their minutes. But when you're looking at that top 9 in particular, what for you is that ideal time range for players in terms of overall game time on ice?
I mean, in a perfect world, you run those guys, they're all going to want about 18 to 20 minutes, but that doesn't work, right? The fourth line doesn't agree with that number. And then it gets bent around because of power play and penalty kill, depending on what you're doing. But if you were running between a guy that plays somewhere between 60 and 20, I never expect that guy in my office going, hey, I'm not getting played enough.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, good morning, Paul. Earlier on in this conversation, you were talking about how you wanted to avoid moving younger players around back when the team was still in the developing stage. So how impressive is it that a young guy like Tim Stützle has been able to come in and do what he's done for the Ottawa Senators?
Yeah. Oh, this guy's got a really impressive game on him. And what's exciting for Senators fans is when he reaches physical maturity, because he does a lot of things like that edge work and the strength on the puck. And he had one the other night in the right offensive corner, and he made 2 or 3 hard plays on the puck, and he ended up getting taken out by Larson. But you're watching that going, in a year in 2, he's going to make those plays. What he can do with the puck, his strength, his willingness to hang on to it. He's not a perimeter guy. So many of the good young players take a long time to get inside, to get into the heavy areas, to impact the game. And that's where the NHL game's played. He doesn't seem to have an issue with that. He's going to be spectacular.
And final question to Gord Miller from TSN. Go ahead, Gord.
Paul, you said that about Nick Ehlers in the past, about getting inside the game and being inside. He's been a pretty consistent goal scorer for the last few years, but has he taken it to the next level? And if so, what's he done to do that?
Yeah. So our message to Nick Ehlers has always been, we want you to play like a shooter. So we want you to move around the ice like you're going to try to shoot that puck every opportunity that you get. And we feel that that's what he's doing now. So maybe in the past years, to your consistency about his goal scoring, he wouldn't necessarily have had to play against the other team's best. That was the advantage of having a Lowry checking line and having Blake Wheeler with Scheif. We could get Nicky out in the 3-hole, but you didn't see it a lot. And in part, when he played with Patrick, Nicky played like a passer. So he was kind of in that mode of trying to get Patrick the puck, and we felt it took away from his quickness, and that release that he has comes at unusual times. But when it's at its best, his feet are moving at the same time.